Yo, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another movie review. Today, Zero and I are here to talk all things creepy with the new film, The Exorcism, coming to theaters June 21st. First and foremost, this film is directed by Joshua John Miller. Because in case there may be any confusion about what we're about to talk about today, starring Russell Crowe, we're talking about the 2024 film, The Exorcism, that is in no way, shape, or form related to as a sequel in the same universe or any level of continuity with the film that came out last year in The Pope's Exorcist, directed by Julius Avery, also starring Russell Crowe in, what should I say, the same character essentially. But that's no here nor there. We just want to make sure you know exactly what you're about to get a review about. But nonetheless, yes, one more time, this is The Exorcism coming to theaters June 21st by director Joshua John Miller, also writer Mark Fortin. What is this film about? How about that?
Well, as confusing as the titles and the cast may seem, this is actually a little bit different of an exorcism film. 2024 is filled with religious horror. It's making a very strange resurgence right now, but The Exorcism provides a little bit of a disconnect to all the other religious horror that we've seen this year so far, with kind of an Inception kind of situation going on. So The Exorcism stars Russell Crowe as his character called Anthony Miller. He is an actor, and he's beginning to exhibit some disruptive and concerning behaviors while on the set of his newest film, which is an exorcism film. That's where the Inception part starts coming in. Then we have his estranged daughter, who is played by Ryan Simpkins, who is a little bit concerned and is given a job as a PA on the set to kind of observe and provide the concerning undertones for what the hell her father might be going through.
You talked about the cast a little bit. This cast is stacked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Russell Crowe, Ryan, as you mentioned, Sam Worthington from the Avatar series, Chloe Bailey. Not on my, like, I would never had, not only would I had not guessed she would have been in this film, but the fact she gets possessed in the film was definitely like a, yeah, she's opening up her sort of her diversity in the role she's taking here. And then Adam Goldberg, but I was definitely surprised to see her in there. But yeah, there's a lot of names that you will be familiar with this. But overall with this film, I say that yeah, we've definitely really been diving back into possession films pretty heavily in this genre over the last year or so. But this one doesn't necessarily recreate the wheel, but if you're into that, like a dream of a dream in a dream type of thing, well, this one is a movie in the movie, because as you mentioned, like, this was basically when method acting goes wrong. They were trying to shoot an exorcism film, and you know how we do here at Big Go Bell Media, fuck around and find out. Y'all want to keep messing with these demons and not like they're not going to come through. And once again, for the 1,000th time, people was like, oh yeah, you know, we can just play our part. But I will say this, going back to Chloe's character, Blake, the commentary pretty early in this film was like, you know what happens with people in these type of films. She's very heavy on the sage. So for my folks out there that is off their sage, I'm here to let you know that Blake has determined that that is not an effective measure to protect you from demon and possession. So you know, for that, I did appreciate like the little subtle, like little laugh and humors in there. But overall with this film, like, I really enjoyed Ryan's performance as Lee. Easily the star of this film with all the star power involved here. Ryan, just a fantastic job in making you believe like the really the disapproval of her dad, who's Russell's character Anthony, the measure of survival, but also like the curiosity about everything that's happening, like really playing between both lines here. Like I really just enjoyed her performance in this. And I think, you know, for a film that I have a lot of questions. I'll get to that in a second. But for a film that I think makes some questionable decisions, for what it's worth, the lead and Ryan did a really good job and truly sparked my interest in terms of wanting to see Ryan in more horror films.
Absolutely. And Ryan Simpkins, man, they're not a stranger to the genre. For the horror heads out there that are listening or watching at home, you might have recognized them from the Fear Street trilogy, which is, I think, their biggest project so far in the realm of horror. And I got to speak a little bit with them for the interviews, which you can check out right after you watch this review. And we talked a little bit about the queerness of their characters. And I think that's really important to not separate from horror pretty much. And I think that it fits very well in this film for kind of creating that realistic aspect. She's young. Lee is a young woman and she's just trying to figure out how to navigate her life. And that's super relatable, and similar themes in Fear Street, you know, relatable characters that we can kind of see ourselves in, relate to. And then, you know, when the ultimate happens, when the inevitable happens and shit starts to hit the fan, is really when we start feeling for these characters. So I think Ryan Simpkins is definitely the star. We all know Russell Crowe, but let's start talking about Ryan Simpkins a little bit more. And even though this cast is ridiculously star-studded, I agree with you, Najir. They definitely shine in this one.
Yeah, and I think like Lee, the character Lee, you know, happened to deal with the disapproval of her father, and the father definitely, before the real demon gets involved, definitely had some inner demons and reputation involved, egos involved, and so on. But like, you know, this is a daughter who is, you know, dealing with grieving you know, the passing of her mother, you know, and really trying to find a way. So like there's a lot of journey with this character that you attach yourself to in the film, that I got to be honest, that no one else was able to provide that. I honestly felt like a lot of the characters were just kind of there. Names were just kind of there, and like there's some good moments with all these characters, but like I don't never felt like there was a moment where it just all came together. But to talk about like the horror elements of this here, like I was definitely keen to the sound mixing, like the cracking in the bones, the demonic voices and whatnot. I mean, it's all things that you've heard and whatnot. Like this film by no means reinvents the wheel, but like the jump scares, I thought they worked at times. There was some moments that was like gross and whatnot. But I don't know. For me, it just felt like at a point of the film, like continuity, there might have been like an initial vision, and then at some point, whatever the initial plan wasn't the full execution of the film. It definitely felt like at a point that it felt like a divide in the film. And then it felt like at times that the film played everything very safe. And like it goes back to the title of the film, because the film was originally called the Georgetown Project, which is like, okay, never heard of that. And you kind of get curious about what's that all about. But like, soon as you hear the Exorcism, just a measure of expectation. And then it doesn't help that there was a film just a year ago with the same lead that had a similar title. So like, I don't know, it just feels like there was just some very safe measures with this film. As far as like, you know, you call the film The Exorcism, it's like, oh, I got to see that, whether I know what it's about or not. But you're like, oh, I got to see that. I know what that's all about. It's not The Exorcist, but it's The Exorcism, and it ain't the Pope's exorcist. So it's just like, there's a lot of reasons why you may be bamboozled getting into this.
Yeah,
but the money's already counted up at that point. So
right.
It doesn't matter,
so
you know,
it's coming whether you like it or not. I feel like, and I think that a lot of fans of just movies in general, not necessarily horror fans, but if you watch movies, if you love movies and you catch this one in the theater or at home when it comes to streaming, VOD, whatever, I think that it's going to be pretty apparent that this film has gone through the curse of the rewrite. You know, and I had a very similar feeling when Nigeria, we watched the American Society of Magical Negroes, because we have a really great concept here that seems like it could really work. I love the whole Inception situation. But what it seems like to me is that we started off with this really strong concept, and as soon as we added more and more layers, maybe production, maybe the studios, maybe the executive producers keep putting their 2 cents in, and then ultimately it kind of becomes a film that it wasn't supposed to be in the beginning. And I think that's kind of apparent when you watch it. It still has some really great moments and it's entertaining at the end of the day, but you're going to be left with some questions. And I think most of the frustrations that you might feel watching this film comes from the title shift. And I think, leaving the title of the film as well, so the previous title was the title of the film that they are making in the movie, which is something new, something we've never heard before. That, and then you go and read the synopsis. It could be something fresh. It could be something interesting. But you're right. As soon as they tag the Exorcism on it, it's a niche. It's a big niche. It's been done plenty of times. There are fans that specifically look for that subgenre of horror, but unfortunately, when you dive into this film, that's not actually what you're getting. So I think that could cause a little bit of frustration. Again, I mean, mic drop, needle drop, whatever. I think that we started off with a really strong product, and then, over the writing process and the reviewing process and the filming process and then the editing process, we turned out to get something that wasn't planned. Now, that's not fact solidified. This is just my opinion as a reviewer, but I think that the majority might be able to agree with me on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest takeaway from the film is that they really did have something. And like in terms of like the things I guess I would have wanted more is like really exploring some of these characters a little bit more. And then like because of what like it's the stakes involved, like it kind of feels like they just got away from that and they was just like, cool, let's dive heavy into the niche stuff, and then that should satisfy the viewers, and then we can just end the film. I mean, even to the point that, like, I don't know, maybe this is a spoiler or not, but like at the end of the thing, I'm like, is this movie going to come out that they were making? Like, I know some things happen, but I'm like, we forgot we're trying to make the
closure,
movie.
Please?
Yeah, I like, for real, I need to know, like, is this movie coming out and whatnot? Which is like, the concept is so cool, and you really would have dived into that being such a prominent point at the end of the film. So the ending is basically like, all right, we got to wrap this up somehow. It absolutely feels like a studio ending of like, hey, we need something that's going to give them like a yeah. So cool, you have like the heavy demonic stuff there, because that's the part that everybody's like, oh, the movie's great because the demons there and the possession and the acting behind the possession, which is yes good, but this just kind of didn't really follow the stakes that were initially created. And then, I was digging the fire stuff that they had. Maybe it was practical, but it was at a point where it's like, this looks cool. All right, the CGI is involved now. Now that looks kind of just all over the place. So I don't know, man. It felt like a good idea. It's like Taco Bell, That's my take.
Yeah. Sounds great in theory. After it's all said and done, you said, did I really need to do all that? I really need to do all that? It's a film that is very loyal to the beats. But at the end of the day, it's not the beats that make the movie. It's the full cohesive story, which is we're kind of lacking in that department. But the beats are there, that's what gives me the idea that somebody up there in the higher ranks, executive producer, or whoever from the studios, has said, but what if we just put that in there? What if we just put that in there? And now it's just a movie all about the beats, which again is fine. You can turn your brain off and enjoy this one. Chloe Bailey possessed with the makeup and everything in that cold room setting was, I enjoyed that to the fullest. I really did. Great moments, full story. I'm gonna say it's a little bit forgettable, which is a shame, because we really had something here.
Lot of bit forgettable for me. And the last thing I will say is that, like, because there was a film to be made here, there's also like a surrealism in terms of like making a film. and they make that a prominent part of the film, about like the horrors of making a film when you have reshoots or recasting and all the sorts of different things. I mean, right now the movie Blade with Marvel should be a horror film because they can't land a director to say to like what's happening behind scenes, and that's the element of this film that at the end they just dropped. You know, why some of these that's why you have such big names for characters. You're like, why would you cast a big name for a supporting character if you're not going to make that element of the story worthwhile? And that where I'm like, what's happening here? So a lot of it forgettable for me. But on that note, if you want to go see it, it's in theaters June 21st. And then you can come here and you can let us know all your thoughts about it. But for what it's worth, man, again, Ryan, they're definitely really primed to be like the next big horror star. I know a lot of folks is champion Sydney Sweeney, but
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't know. I think as this moment right now, I'm Team Ryan. I really am.
And if I had to throw one other name out there that I think is also there, is Catherine Newton is also really trending in the right direction. But I think Ryan needs to be in these discussions. So that's my takeaway from it. But yeah, I'm done talking about this film. So until next week with so many more other films that we have to cover in this genre. I typically don't try to mix reviews, but we got A Quiet Place coming. We got Maxine coming. It's only June, July, and things are heating up. So stick here at Big Gold Belt Media for more reviews and content. Let us know your thoughts about their Exorcism when you see it. And as always, we appreciate y'all coming through, and we'll see y'all back very soon for more content.